Good morning and welcome to 30-minute review. Nope, beware of spoilers. I am Adam. On this Thursday, the 10th of October. Are we like halfway through Agatha at this point? I'm not entirely sure. I feel like we might be. I don't remember if it was 8 episodes or 9. But either way, I think we are about halfway. We 1, 2. This is 5? That seems about right. And I feel like, based on the screeners that I've gotten in the past from Disney, this episode feels like the one that would have been the, that would have been the cutoff point where it's like, here on, like, this would have been where the ending is, where it's like, oh no, everyone's dead. Because, typically the one that I remember very well was, Moon Knight, which ends with him thinking he died, or him he died, and going to the afterlife, and encountering the hippo, and that was where it cut off. So, like, this feels like the point where they would have cut off, and if they didn't just give the whole season. Because they do that too sometimes, but infrequently, especially for Marvel shows and the big tentpole shows. The point is, I think it's worth noting that, what's the early for here? This feels less like a cool expansion of canon, and more like a... like the reveal of Tommy that has finally come, I don't think quite works right for me. Because, again, like I said, and I've beaten this to death already, I don't know if we need to continue beating this to death, but I think had they just been like, okay, this is Tommy, and we know Agatha wants the power of the Scarlet Witch, so she's kind of okay with allowing this to happen, where it's like, yeah, this is not a great idea, but, maybe that's something that, we can control when we get there, but until then, there's no other way to get this power, so let's just deal and hope for the best. And I think, too, it's like, okay, so that I think would have worked for what this is, but, okay, so you didn't do that. Now, the reveal in this case that, like, oh, this is Tommy, and I think, too, had it not been for them showing the crown, like, Agatha could have said, you're just like your mother, and I think a lot of it would still work as, is this actually Agatha's son? But I'm kind of happy they didn't, because I'm tired of this guessing game. I'm tired of this, what's it called? I'm tired of this, who is he? Could it be Agatha's son? Could it be that this is, like, someone else? Like, no, I think that this is, like, no, this is something else. Like this is Tommy. And I think that this is the right move, revealing it here like this, and not being like, let's drag this out for a little bit longer. Now, the issue is, it would have been better. Like, the way that they go about this, where Agatha kind of pieces it all together at the very end, I think is the least interesting way they could go about it. And let's talk about the characters. Like, first of all, if anyone's dead, it's gonna be Atlas. Everyone else is still alive, because the show has a way of killing people at the time where it's like, you feel the most bad for them. Alice had just put her demons behind her, so I think that, like, in a very similar Mrs. Hart kind of, or Sharon kind of way, like, it's the time that's the, her arc is over, let's just get rid of her. Like, that's kind of what that feels like. The idea that, we're going to kill off the entire rest of the Coven, I don't think that happens, because I don't think there's anyone there. I mean, Patti LuPone, they asked for a lot of money, And I think that, again, we have not seen the end of Aubrey Plaza. But I don't think, I don't know if what's her name is like, I don't know if it really adds anything to the plot, and I don't know if it's a budget constraint where let's just kill them off. We may not get them next episode, because the next episode may be the, let's go back and see what happened to Tommy to get him to this point. Which is fine. You could have still done that down the line, and you could have still basically done this. But I think that that's the whole thing that would have been very interesting, because it's like, they don't trust Agatha as it is. But then if it came out that Agatha not only, Agatha knew that Tommy was, that this guy was Tommy. It's weird they call him Teen the entire time. Why? It's so, they call him, the familiar, they call him the pet, things like that. I guess pet has a weird sexual connotation that I don't think we need to address. But, the others, you could have done, a regular, name kind of thing and been like, oh, well, that's, or it could have been here's an alter ego that he's going by while he's doing that. But this idea that he's essentially he's just Teen. It's like, well, obviously he's going to be something else. And it's not like Tommy is such a... if he's like, hi, I'm Tommy, or I'm Thomas, it's like, oh, is he actually Tommy? It's... The whole thing's kind of weird, I think. I don't know. I feel like there were better ways to handle a lot of the things they did this season so far. And I think that the thing is, it's I'm enjoying the show for the most part. I think this episode had probably the most issues with lighting, because it was very dark, especially during the very early part of the episode when they were, when they were flying away on the brooms. That was very difficult to watch because it's just so dark. And I understand why you do it that dark. It's if you do it that dark, then you don't gotta... Why is this gas station so much cheaper? Oh, never mind, it's not cheaper, it's more expensive. Is it? Yeah, it is, never mind. But that whole sequence is cool, but it's very hard to watch, it's very dark. But look, I think the reveal of Tommy in this way, especially for her to be oh, you're just like your mother. It's why are we acting like this is something, her playing it that way is, I think, worse. Considering she didn't know up until this point, and the sigil, you could change the way the sigil works. The sigil, it's not real. That's the thing about this, that none of this is real. So if you want to say some magic mumbo-jumbo works different from how you originally had it planned, you can do that. Where it's he can't reveal his identity to anyone else, but someone else can. And until someone else reveals his identity, then the sigil is not lifted for everyone else. That would have been fine. Because they would have no way of knowing that Agatha actually knew who he was. And again, it's we're playing with Agatha in this weird place where she's conniving, and they want her to be this manipulator and all of that. But for a lot of the show, she's just kind of along for the ride, which I don't think really helps the case of oh, look at how strong and smart she is. It's just she's making the best of a bad situation and trying her best to do that. And and the thing is too, it's I actually start to feel bad for Agatha in this episode. When she's begging the rest of the coven to not leave her behind, with this ghost of her mother. It's don't leave me with her, please. And it's look, she's kind of flippant with, the sanctity of human life for a lot of the show. But, at the same time, it's kind of You know, I feel it's out of character for these people to just be like, fuck you, bye. Like, I feel like this group would want to be like, no, we want to do what she wouldn't do for us, and we're going to help her. And I feel like that I think would have been a better moment for the Coven. And probably for Agatha, too. Because even if you do want to have her do that and still be the same unrepentant, sociopath, then, like, yeah, that still works. Like, yeah, they saved my life, but who gives a fuck? Like, they were stupid for doing that. They should have let me die. Like, it's kind of weird, I think. And it's just, I don't know why they would go with that. But look, I enjoy the show. I'm enjoying what they're doing, and I like the production design every time they go to a new place. And it all looks really cool. And like, look, I was someone who watched like Legends of Tomorrow and every DC show, and I found something to enjoy with them. And I think what I'm going to start doing with like the Marvel TV shows is like, treat it like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, this never has to tie back in. I mean, I think it eventually will. I think that, like, they separated it out as Marvel TV, but I think it is more interconnected than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Inhumans, or even Inhumans wasn't, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was with, Inhumans technically was, because there it was in Multiverse of Madness. But I don't think that they really necessarily have to do, like, I don't think they're going to tie in as closely, where they're going to hand off as much under this new banner, but I don't think, like, I don't think that, I don't think that it's necessarily a smart, like, I don't think it's going to tie in as much as we would like it to. Oh, what else have we got? I don't know. It's like, these episodes are good, but they are a little shallow. Like, that's my big issue with this show, is that it all feels very shallow. Which is unfortunate, because, like, as cool things happen, you don't necessarily get, you don't get a lot. And really what happens is it's kind of back-ended with, okay, so here's all the reveals, okay, great, next episode, we may deal with them, we may not. And look, the reveal of Tommy happening now is probably better now rather than later, because I think the show ends on the 30th, because Halloween is on a Thursday. So on the 30th, I think, is when the show formally ends. Because I think they double up on episodes there. And I think we got, that was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah, so 9 episodes. If next one is a reveal, is them, I think that you gotta have an episode dealing with the repercussion of what happened and kind of like trying to stabilize Tommy, especially if Tommy is this kind of, because like that's the weird thing, is that it's like, okay, so Tommy, overreacts and kills the entire Coven, allegedly, and it's like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I don't think that these deaths stay, but either way, it's like, I don't think you go into a flashback episode after that kind of thing at the end, unless it's like a half flashback, because like, really, how much flashback do you really need? About, okay, so here's how Tommy survived. I don't think you need to go all in like WandaVision, where you do an entire episode that kind of lays out what happened in the last 3, and then just kind of like, here's what's happening in the real world. I don't think you need to do that. At the same time, I don't think you need to, what's it called? I don't think you need to, what was it called? Like, do like the, I can't remember the word I'm looking for here. Like, I don't think you need, like, or like the Acolyte, where you have to do it twice even. But like, I do think you need something. It's like, because even so, I think the way they reveal it at the end, if, again, not for the crown, that's very much Wanda's crown. Like, if not for that, then that reveal, like, that ending means nothing to anyone. Like, and even so, the crown is not in full view. Like, and if not for the, like, there are people who probably missed that because they watched it on TV, they like left the room or something like that, and they didn't catch, oh shit, that he's wearing Scarlet Witch's crown. Like, the idea that the crown is kind of, you know, this big thing, like, it's just a little bit strange, I think. And at the end of the day, watching the show, you know, next episode I think has to be all about, like, okay, we're going to save everyone, and then we're going to do that. And also, I'll ask the question that I think maybe I'm not the only one asking about this. Like, does Agatha have power again? Because if she got into that altercation and sucked the power out of Alice and killed her, then does she have power again? And if she has power again, then can she undo what Tommy did? And because she never says Tommy, she just says you're just like your mother, which is a weird moment because it's like, oh yeah, this is that kid who wasn't real, like, he was artificially created life partially, and I babysat him and held him captive and all of that. Like, that's the thing, is that it's like, we gotta see where this kind of came from and what happened there. And I don't know if there's necessarily enough there for a full season where it's like, oh, and like when you get the Westview, you know, thing, it's like, oh, well, you know, you go to Westview, there's a barrier there, we gotta figure out what's on the other side of the barrier. Here's Jimmy Woo, he's helping out. Here's Darcy, she was brought in because she's a physicist, allegedly, and then, you know, even though that wasn't what her character was, it was a joke, and I don't know, it's an interesting situation to have these characters in, but again, I just feel like the execution early on, it seems like they're trying to have a moment for discussion more than they're trying to have a serious discussion about, you know, a serious discussion about what this character is and what the implication is of this character being alive now. Because, like, that's a big deal. Like, we're talking, I wouldn't even call it resurrection if this is Tommy. I mean, it is Tommy, but since it's Tommy, I wouldn't even call it resurrection. Because I don't think Tommy died. I think it's just Tommy never actually existed in this universe. Like, there are alternate universes where Tommy lived, but what happened here? And then there's a whole lot of questions that happen where it's like, so, like, say the other Tommy, you know, like, also was Wiccan, like the Tommy we saw in Multiverse of Madness, the one who's, you know, the one who was in A38 Wanda's house. Like, if that Tommy learned how to dreamwalk and then dreamwalked to 616, what would happen there? How would that work? Because there was a Tommy, there's no body that he can dreamwalk into like Strange did, because he just ceased to exist. He never existed. He was a construct of Wanda's, a manifestation of Wanda's powers. It's odd, and I'm not entirely sure. Like I don't think that they're gonna go into those semantics, and I think that the issue that I have with this is, like, what's it gonna be? Like, okay, so did his spirit not actually die and it was kind of hovering around, and then, like, oh, look, a corpse, let me just go and reanimate the corpse? But that's the thing, is that there's been nothing, like, there's nothing about this kid that gives, like, zombie vibes. So I don't think that's it. And the kid is here and not within the confines of Westview. Like, because even if it was, they hadn't left Westview, I'd be like, okay, that also could theoretically track. But it's just how it... And the other thing is, the fact that we've never really heard of Witch's Road until now is also a little weird. But that's not... I mean, that's just part of what happens with this idea of an ever-growing, an expanding canon, is that eventually you're going to get to a point where it's like, well, we didn't hear about this before. But regardless, I'm enjoying the show. I know it sounds like I'm being nitpicky and annoying, but I think the fact that we got here, I'm happy we got the reveal now, and we're not, waiting more time before the reveal of, oh, who is this behind the curtain? Who is the man behind the curtain here? Like, I'm happy we're not getting that. I'm happy we're getting, at this point, a reveal that this is Tommy. This is Wanda's son, and we're going to explain that hopefully next week, if not the week after, and then we will get to, we will get to, and I think that this just puts it more on course for what he wants is to bring his mother back. That's what he wants. He wants to go down Witch's Road to bring his mother back. I think that this is something that Rio is willing to go along with, because again, spoilers, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There was a reveal from a Funko Pop that Rio is not actually Rio Vidal. Rio Vidal is actually Lady Death. Like, I think that considering what we know about the Scarlet Witch and her relationship with the Darkhold, and how the idea, what was it that Wong said about the Scarlet Witch? She's destined to either destroy the world or subjugate it, and that's something that, like, I could see Death being like, this is what this is that shit I like. And that would be an interesting kind of, way to handle it. Yeah, I think that'd be a really interesting way to handle it. Because then it's like, she's going down, and she's willing to go along with this, because she's like, well, Tommy is going to bring back Wanda, and if Wanda comes back, that's some shit I need. But we'll see. And if that happens, and we get Elizabeth Olsen back in the show, it'll be the second time that she and Aubrey Plaza co-starred in something, because they were both in Ingrid Goes West. I'm still waiting for a Parks and Rec reference. I know that that's something. It's like, I feel like the people who were like, oh, they should have a joke about about both Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch playing Sherlock Holmes, and I was like, yeah, all right, but like, this feels something that I feel like I would be very happy if they did. Like, I feel like that's definitely like needed. And again, I do love the performance that Catherine Hahn is giving in this show. Like, there's that moment where she's pretending to be possessed, and she does that very well, where she's playing Sharon, but like pretending to be Sharon. And then, like, as you realize, like, the dialogue's a little weird. Why would Sharon talk like this? It's like, oh, it's just Agatha pretending. And then, like, the whole thing with her dealing with the mother, again, it's like, you feel for Agatha. You feel for her as she's like, do not leave me here with this woman. That is something that I do not want to deal with. And yeah, and I think the interesting thing is, too, it's like, Agatha's the one who wanted to go down the road, and it's not her first time going down the road, and the person who fucks up the entire thing for everyone is Agatha. It's not, it's not any of the others who were begrudging, or the ones that they looked at and they were like, oh, well, these are like the second or third string people, and we don't have real good people. It's, we have all these, second class witches. Like, it's not them that crashed the, it's not them that ruined things. It's Agatha. And I like that aspect of it, too. But we'll wrap up there for today. And that's the thing, too, is that it's like, how do we not, and that was the thing, too, it's like, where it's like, who's with us, Death? And Rio starts laughing. I was like, oh, that's going to be the big, that's going to be the payoff later on, is that moment where he's like, yeah, of course, how is Death channeling from beyond? Like, when Death is sitting at the Ouija board. But look, we'll see what happens next. Next week, we'll be back on Thursday for another episode. We have a bunch of stuff coming, so keep an eye out for that. It'll all be on the stream. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.